Hello and welcome to the Art of Selling Online Courses. We're here to share winning strategies and secret hacks from top performers in the online course industry. My name's John Ainsworth and today's guest is Richard Jalichandra, or RJ. So RJ is a seasoned technology executive. He's got experience scaling VC and private equity-backed B2C and B2B tech firms, spanning ad tech and e-commerce and mobile and SaaS. He's led teams that have generated $4 billion in online revenue. He's executed over 40 M&A transactions worth an aggregate value of $1.9 billion, as well as raised over $300 million of debt and equity. Now, he currently runs his own executive coaching and strategy practice where he helps CEOs, developers, leaders, and scale their businesses. And he's also general partner of Incline Capital Investments, LLC. Now, today, we're going to be talking to RJ about what it takes to be a successful CEO in the course creation space, how to grow from one-to-one consulting to scalable courses. He's got some thoughts about what he's planning on doing with that, and then taking your offers to the next level. So there's a lot of stuff here where RJ has got this incredible expertise around how do you be a great CEO running a business. And I know that you listening to this and maybe got something much smaller, much less crazy size than these billions of dollars we're talking about, but we want to learn from RJ what is it that we should all be doing so that we can be better CEOs of our own business. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I want to share something incredibly valuable with you. If you're looking to boost your course revenue, you need to check out our 7-day roadmap to increase your revenue. It's the same system that we've used to help countless clients achieve predictable revenue without making sales calls, running paid ads, or competing on price. You're going to learn how to increase your course revenue by about 30%, how to identify and fix the missing parts of your current funnels, how to optimize your funnels for maximum performance. So if you're ready to take your revenue to the next level, go to datadrivenmarketing.co/roadmap to download that. RJ, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, it's good to be here, John.
So you have coached numerous CEOs. What would you say are the core elements that make someone a good CEO, especially for those running smaller businesses?
Well, for a smaller business, it's a little different because at every different stage of a company's growth cycle, you need kind of different skill sets. So one of the things I'd say when you're early on, especially if you're getting something off the ground, you're probably going to have yourself in more of a profit mindset. You need to kind of make money, otherwise you don't really have a business. So you're always going to be thinking about how you can maximize profit. As you begin to scale your business and it gets a little bit bigger and you start having greater growth opportunities, then you kind of have to put yourself in a growth mindset, which is a little bit different, which means that you're actually taking some bets. You're making some bets on growth opportunities that are kind of beyond what is right in front of you. It's not incremental growth anymore. Now you're looking for transformational growth. But again, it's really dependent on the stage. I have a feeling a lot of your audience is trying to get stuff off the ground. So it's really like you're going to be very profit focused of like, let me bring in every dollar I possibly can and use that to then reinvest in my business and grow it down the road.
Yeah, a lot of people listening are at a stage where they're under probably $5,000 in revenue. This is kind of their side gig, or they've managed to make it their full-time gig, and they're kind of getting going with it. And for a lot of them, once they start to run the kind of stuff that we help them with, once they're starting to do email marketing campaigns and funnels, they start to actually increase a lot because they've put a lot of the groundwork in. They've got a good size audience. They've got great courses. And then people start to struggle a little bit. And I've seen this a few times because they're making all this extra money and they're like, oh, I don't know quite how to handle this. So let's say we're talking to those guys, people who they've got an audience of, let's say, a couple of 100,000 people on YouTube, something like that. They've got great courses. They've started running their marketing. They've got more money coming in. They're starting now to think about, they've got maybe a couple of assistants and a couple of freelance editors, this kind of thing. They're like, oh shit, I've got money. I could afford to hire a team. I could afford to expand the business. I could maybe start doing, get other guest presenters, all kinds of different opportunities that come up. So how do they start to think about it at that point? Like what's some of the frameworks that they could use to start to decide what direction do I go in, or how do I manage this?
Well, then you get to my favorite and number one lesson that I work on with all CEOs. And that's that your objective, even if it's not today, but your objective long-term is to figure out how you do no work. And so what do we mean by doing no work? Doing no work means you're not doing nothing. It's not like you're not working on the business, but you're not working in it. You're not actually involved in the delivery or execution of the business plan. So with your audience, that's going to be a long way away, but you still want to have that in the back of your head that eventually as you start building a scalable, sustainable course and learning platform, there's another word, platform, you start thinking of it as a platform, you want to get to a point where you're doing less of the work. So for example, in my research, I've talked to a bazillion course creators, and as you know, in some of my masterminds, I have a lot of course creators as well. So even though I'm in the middle of launching my own course, I have a lot of repetitions from talking with really successful course creators. And so some of the most successful ones I've met, there's somebody I know that does 8 figures. She works less than 3 hours a week on the business because she's now built out a whole team that's fully scalable and self-sustaining, self-operating, all that. Now, I'm bringing this back to your audience of like, you got a lot of people trying to get off the ground. You're not going to get there overnight. It's really about creating a plan that is like, okay, where am I now? What percentage of my time can I literally try and do no work by hiring a VA or, production assistant or a booker or something like that? What percentage can you get? So it becomes kind of a growing percentage over time that as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, hopefully you get to that big time where you're working 3 hours a week, which is basically you're only creating the content and everybody else is doing all the stuff to make the business grow.
So how do you think about where to start with that? Do you focus on like what's the lowest value tasks, get an assistant to just do your repetitive basic tasks? Or do you think there's value? I know some people talk about like, let's say you've got a sales function in your business. You're not just selling low ticket courses, but you're also selling group coaching programs. Find someone who's great at sales who can take that on if you're not good at that, and like actually hire somebody who's quite senior to take on that part of the business. Like how do you think about it in terms of where to get started with hiring?
Well, that's an interesting challenge because, most solopreneurs really quickly get onto the fact that they can have some of the smaller tasks be outsourced, whether it's to a virtual assistant or, an executive assistant or something like that. So people are generally pretty good, and that's pretty obvious to go and start taking care of those tasks. Where you start getting into that transformational mentality, and where I said you start going from profit mindset to growth mindset, is when you start taking bigger bets. And a lot of early entrepreneurs, they have a very hard time kind of making that transition from hiring people that just do the tasks that literally could be like, maybe it's hiring the creative director and production guru, whatever, that can just take your whole, production values as well as your whole strategy to another level. Those people typically are a lot more expensive, and that's why people have a lot, of a big mental hurdle to go and make those bets because they're expensive. That's when you start, going in this direction of being able to do no work, though. So, for example, in the person that I mentioned before, now she's got a staff of I think almost 30 people, and yet she's got an executive producer who is, a big time, person with 25 years of experience, kind of running the whole production side of her business and all that. Look, you're not going to get there overnight. You've got to kind of like take those steps, but there is going to be an inflection point where you do have that thing of like, God, well, if I really invest in the right person, this person may make me jump from not just 20% growth, but 2,000% growth.
Okay. So someone's thinking about having that growth mindset, and they've got like, let's say 3 different ideas of like, I could focus on this part of the business or this one, and hire this like, executive producer or whatever it is. Maybe it's not at that high of a level, but like, somebody more senior to help with something. There's a framework that you've told me that I should be doing, which is kind of mapping out the whole business in a spreadsheet for the next 12 months. Is that the tool that you would use at that point to try and decide which of those 3 to do? And could you kind of explain that spreadsheet and none of what that looks like as well?
Well, it's actually more than a spreadsheet, John. If you remember, I've said there's like two documents you should run your business with. One is a slide deck, and I'm very specific about using a slide deck. Word docs and things just become too verbose and they're too hard to write and all that. So a slide deck is very brief, and you should just have kind of the narrative of what you want to build done in a slide deck. And then the spreadsheet comes in because you want a numerical expression of what that growth plan is going to look like and how it's going to model out at different, for example, let's say you have, maybe 3 different courses or something like that. What are the price points of each of them? How do they interrelate? What is your customer acquisition funnel for each of those products? All that. That would all live in a spreadsheet. But again, you're going to have the color commentary, the verbal narrative written in a document. So let's say you're not good at spreadsheets, you might have to hire somebody. It's very easy to hand that slide deck over and go through it with somebody who's a spreadsheet jockey, for example, and they can help you build out kind of your numbers and all that. But essentially, that's like 2 things that I think about is like, what are the 2 docs that I'm going to run my business with? So as you know, I'm in the middle of launching a course, and I already have those 2 documents. Even though I haven't launched anything, I already have a business plan. I don't know what it's like, 15 slides long that kind of detail everything about what I'm thinking of, like what the first version of the early phase of the business is going to be for 6 months, and then what it's going to look like beyond like 6 to 18 months. I've got my price points, I have my marketing channels and stuff kind of in there. It's basically, a narrative that I've kind of done for myself to help me plan out all the things I need to do. It's calling it an advanced to-do list, but it's also got some vision in there too, where I'm also looking to 2-3 years down the line of like, what could this actually be? I know that it's too far, to think about, and sometimes it's a distraction to think about kind of like big dreams. But it's not a bad idea to at least, put 2% of your attention on what could this be 3 years from now? Kind of work backwards. So that's kind of like the 2 documents of there. I highly recommend doing the quantitative work in a spreadsheet though, because a lot of people don't have any idea what the unit economics of their business are. So they may go and invest in advertising or some other sort of paid marketing or whatever it is, without having a clear idea of what they're expecting from an ROI perspective. So that's why you want that quantitative representation of your strategy as well.
Okay, so let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, yeah, I'm bought in. I need to have this slide deck and I need to have this spreadsheet. With the slide deck, what's like some of the headings? What do people need to have in there?
Well, it's funny, when I launch my course, it'll come with a template that basically just says fill this out. But it's funny, in my document, which I think I've shared with you, I didn't really even follow my own template, simply because I've done this so many times as an experienced CEO. I kind of like jumped ahead to the thing. But I think the first thing is let me just go over some like high level things that would be good for somebody. Is just like, what's your vision? And I hate vision and mission statements and stuff like that, but you do have to have a purpose. So what is your purpose? And that's probably, a single sentence statement on one slide that says, here's what I'm trying to accomplish and here's who I'm trying to serve. Then you should kind of talk about like what you have today, where you are today, a simple just assessment. And again, one of the reasons I use slide decks is it forces you to be super brief. So anything I tell you to do, you're not going to ever put more than 4 to 6 bullets, maybe with a couple of sub bullets or something like that, but it's never going to be complicated. It's got to be something that you could write stream of consciousness. The first draft literally should be something you could do in 30 to 60 minutes just as a stream of consciousness. I'll get to what happens after that first draft, but essentially I would have, back to what I said, something like, okay, here's your current state, and then I would have something more specific about what you're trying to achieve from a business goals and objectives in like another slide. And then I would be breaking down in the following slides after that, how am I going to achieve that? So what is my sales plan? What is my marketing plan? What is my product development plan? Each of these could be a slide, and you might have something really simple, but there may only be one bullet on that slide as to what you're doing, or like if you reference, some people may not have a sales strategy yet. So maybe sales is like, the sales slide might just say it's too soon now, but at the 18-month mark, then we're going to think about possibly bringing on sales or business development or something like that. Essentially what you're doing though is, like I said, that first deck should literally just be a stream of consciousness. It shouldn't take you very long to do it. You've got to be able to just do it off the top of your head. And then what happens is, as you start thinking more and more about your business, you go back and you update that deck. So for example, the deck I shared with you, the first version of that, true to my word, probably took me 20 minutes to just jot down some stuff. Now I've got a 20-page slide deck that actually has a lot of meat on it, that says even down to the agencies I've narrowed down that I want to work with in terms of doing lead gen and content marketing and stuff like that. So that's very specific, but it just starts off as something, and like I said, it just becomes kind of your working document. It's never done. That's the other thing I always say, is the model or the slide deck, they're never done. They may get to a state of 90%, but they're never done, because you're going to keep updating them always. And as your business grows, you're going to keep updating the deck as well, to kind of like, okay, where's my current state now? Let's say, we're in 2025. Where's it now? And then where's it going to be in 26 and 27 and all of that? So it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And I've done this for all the companies that I've run. I remember one company I started off, the first deck was eight slides. By the time we sold the company, it was 160 slides, because by then I started having, not just myself, but I started having some of my teammates, like the functional department heads, of like, okay, the marketing person's going to take over the marketing section. Well, the marketing section was originally one slide. Now it's 10 slides, because now we've got a whole bunch of tactics and, strategies that we're doing in just that marketing function. But again, if I bring this back to, what you're doing for a course creator, you start mapping out kind of like, okay, if I wanted to scale this, beyond myself, what are the first hires that I'm going to make? We'll go back to some of the smaller tasks and things that you can outsource to then, and basically what it's going to do is it's going to start telling you, when do I need to make these hires, and when can I afford to make these hires? Because I'm also going to have the numerical expression in my model that says, as I'm growing, okay, I might going to be able to afford this person then and that person at another point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, to an extent. Okay, cool. So we've got in here, start out stream of consciousness. Some of the headings are going to be revenue streams that you've got, products and what they're going to cost, maybe what you're going to build, what you're planning, or other courses you're going to planning on creating, whether you're going to have a higher tier consultancy, coaching, group coaching, anything like that. Marketing channels, you mentioned sales, and that might be just not doing that yet, but in 6 months I'm going to look at having a higher priced offer. What kind of teams you're planning on working with. Anything else? Any other parts that you think people should start with? I know we're not looking at the 160-page document yet. We're looking at the short version, but like anything else that people should have in there to start with?
Yeah, I like having my financial objectives in there. And again, I may take a summary page out of my financial model, really high level, not the details that would be in the model, but I like having that because again, it's first for myself. It's basically like I'm stating, I'm calling my shot, I'm calling my own objective or whatever. So I've got something to shoot for. But the other thing that's useful about this doc is, let's say you start growing your team. Every person that comes on board, you can share this document with them and they're going to understand your business like really well. The other thing is, and again, this may not be as appropriate for your audience, but just when I tell this to do, for other CEOs running a company, is some variation of this document. You're going to pull certain slides out and it's going to become your company overview, which when somebody comes to buy your company, you've already kind of got the content done and it just maybe be, a handful, not the whole deck, but a handful of the slides come out and maybe, edit it a little bit for an outside third party. But that actually could help you sell your company. It could help you do business development partnerships. So that's something actually, frankly, I've already had a conversation like that. Even though this is kind of crazy, I haven't launched my course yet, but I've already had business development conversations with another coaching platform to potentially partner in terms of them as a sales channel for this. So having a very simple document that I could pull up, and it was a lot more impressive than me just talking out of my face, whatever. If I can also, oh well, here's what I'm offering, and all of a sudden they're impressed because it's like, oh my God, you really thought this well through. I think that's really important for a course creator, because I think one of the most important channels that you're going to have is finding other coaches and course creators that are doing something complementary, where you could potentially cross-sell and upsell to each other's audiences and stuff like that. Well, again, you're going to just look a lot better if you reach out and say, well, okay, here's my 5-slide overview about what our courses are, what we offer, and how you might partner with us. Just a lot more impressive. It's like a very nice business card.
So let's imagine that somebody's gone through this process. They've actually got a good sized team now. They've got good sized revenue. It's like let's say that the $1 million plus mark. They've got this Google Slides document. You were talking about sharing it with your team. Are you just giving them the Google Slides, or are you talking people through it as a presentation? Do you record a Loom video every so often to kind of give people an update on it? Like, how does that conveying it to the team process work?
Well, look, you've got to use a little bit of editorial judgment. So there may be confidential financial information in your version of the deck, and then you may have a more public version. You may have two public versions. One is internal public that you're letting the team play with and all of that. And then there's external public, like I said, for business development or sales or potential acquisition or something like that. You're going to have different levels of editorial inclusion, so to speak. But one thing I love doing for my team is when I'm onboarding people or we're having company meetings, I like going through some or all of the deck just so people can understand that. But then at the same time, as I mentioned earlier, it's really good when you start having somebody kind of take over a section of that deck. So for example, let's say you've got 3 courses, but you want to launch another 7 in the next 12 months, and you've got a course designer that you've hired or something like that, either on contract or full-time or whatever, who's going to help you launch these things. Well, they could just take over the whole product development section of like, okay, here are the courses we're going to create. Each one of those could have their own 5-slide section, simply because you want to detail what are we going to accomplish. They're almost like mini subsidiaries of your business. So that's what I'm saying is like, and then you could have somebody, let's use an example, you're $1 million, you may have a fractional CFO and a bookkeeper at that point. Well, they may want to own their own section of 3 or 4 slides that kind of describe what we're doing from a G&A standpoint, general administration things, like if you're doing $1 million, who knows? You might have 20 employees by that point, or some part-time, some full-time. You may need to keep track of them, what kind of benefits. So it could be any number of things. One could be a sales strategy. Now we're going to go and do an outbound thing. Like I said, the marketing section might be a multi-layered thing. Okay, here is our here's our funnel structure, but here's all the lead sources that here's all the lead magnets that we're going to put out. Again, the deck is really just to help you kind of brainstorm for yourself as well as with your team as to how you start documenting some of the things that you're going to do.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's switch gears.
Let me give you one last reason to do some of this. So, John, as you know, I'm semi-retired.
Working hard not to be, from the sounds of things.
Yeah, no. But trust me.
That was boring. Let me start another business.
Kind of, but here's the thing. So like I documented all this stuff over, the summer and all that. And I'll tell you, a couple of weeks ago, I was so frustrated. I'm like, I don't need to do any of this. I'm retired. I don't have to do anything. Then I looked at that document. I was like, that's accountability to myself. I was like, no, this is just, you've already thought too much about this and it's too good an idea. You need to carry through, and here's your plan. So it was a bit of self-accountability in it too.
Okay, so let's then take a slightly different angle here. Let's talk about your course. Now, one of the things that I know that you're doing from looking through your business plan and your Google Slides is you're not just going to have the course, you're going to have coaching and one-to-one coaching and some other offers as well. And this is something that a lot of the people that listen to this podcast are just doing low ticket courses, and they're not doing the high ticket offers as well. And I think it's a massive mistake. And I think it's this massive opportunity for people, because if you look at the amount of money that you can make from having the group coaching programs, or even one-to-one, if you choose to do that, is massively more than the amount of money that you make from doing the low ticket courses. And so the low ticket courses can actually be an entry level offer into doing the higher ticket stuff as well. I've got a friend who, he was doing 7 million a year already from his membership and low ticket courses and what have you. So doing fantastically well. And then he added in one-to-one coaching, not run by him, run by a team that he'd got. And he immediately added another $1 million in revenue, like straight away. And he hasn't optimized that. He hasn't really built it out. That's just like instantly he had that. And we had another client where he managed to double his revenue just by adding group coaching program in as well. So I love that you've got this. Can you talk everybody through like the different tiers that you're looking at doing and how you've kind of thought this through?
Yeah. So let's actually go backwards for a little bit and talk about why I wanted to launch a course in the first place. So I started, I've done informal and kind of ad hoc CEO coaching for 20 years, but it's never kind of been it's always been just a total side hustle of people just asking for either an advisor, a mentor, or coach or something like that. It wasn't until I was, retired for a year that I got into, full-blown one-on-one coaching. And I quickly realized that if I wasn't careful, I wasn't going to be retired at all. And I was just going to have another job. And yes, I'd be making a lot of money doing one-on-one coaching and all that. But that's not what I really wanted. I wanted something that gave my life operating leverage. Anybody who talks to me, or gets coached by me, they'll understand operating leverage is basically being able, like I said, to kind of get to a point of doing no work. I love the coaching, so I want to keep doing some one-on-one coaching, but I quickly realized I'm probably going to have more demand than I have. Yet at the same time, the way I ran all the companies I ran is I had a very specific system that, I would get hired and I'd have 30 days to kind of figure a company out. And I kind of put together a playbook. And when I showed people the playbook, they're like, this is gold. Why don't you kind of put this out there? So, I don't want to sound like I'm too altruistic or anything like that. But part of me just wants to get this out so that a lot of entrepreneurs can have it and do something with it and improve their businesses and all that. And yes, will I make some money doing it? Yeah, I'll probably make some money doing it. But the real money for me is in high-level, high-ticket one-on-one coaching. That the way I view the course is, yes, I'm getting it out in the wild. Hopefully I can help as many people as possible just by selling the course by itself. But then the course is really a lead magnet for me to kind of create, a very high level curated list of one-on-one coaching clients. But in the process, I think the first time I showed you what I was thinking of, I think it was you who said, wait a second, this is going to generate a whole bunch of leads, not just for yourself, but probably for a whole bunch of other people too. So I think that by launching the course, yes, there's going to be an opportunity for different things, whether it's me finding what I'd call an RJ certified coach that can deliver the program, or for people that can't afford, one-on-one coaching price points. Obviously, we're both big fans of the mastermind model of group coaching and things like that. So it opens up the door for that. So essentially what you're doing is you're offering a bunch of different price points, because every founder and CEO and solopreneur, they're all at different stages and they all have different price points of what they can afford. They all deserve to have some of this knowledge, as well as some of this advisory stuff, but it has to kind of be within a price point that everybody can afford. So I've got my own set of products that are at my price point, but then long term, the way I think about this is I would love to be able to offer price points at every possible thing, as well as open up opportunities for other coaches and things like that as well. So I think to be specific, I look at this as, launching a course. You can buy the course by itself, just, we'll get to the price point later, but you can just buy the course by itself. You can do it yourself. If you want some help doing it, you can have a limited package of coaching sessions that would be one-on-one. If you want to join a group to do it as a group, then you'd be able to do it as a group with, again, a group coach. And then a whole bunch of theme and variations off that. But I think we'd start with kind of a couple basic things. Yes, you can do the course by yourself. You can do a limited package with me or with another certified coach to get it, to execute the course. The third thing would be if you just wanted to hire me as your coach, okay, we can talk about that. And that's an ongoing thing. It's not a 1 month thing. It's a 12-month thing. And then, as I said, the group coaching that could either be done to execute the course itself or an ongoing mastermind for people that just, are like-minded and want the accountability of a group coaching environment.
Nice. Okay, cool. So where are you starting? What's step one with that? Because you're already doing some coaching.
Yep.
You've already got some of those clients, right?
Yep. So step one is, and this is where some of my current frustration and stress is that, step one is just getting my coaching website. My coaching business was done completely ad hoc. There's zero marketing. I don't even have a website. This week we'll launch our website, inclinecapital.net. And you'll be able to find kind of my one-on-one coaching, client information. Shortly thereafter, we'll be launching the course website, which is, okay, you just want to take the course, and that's what you can afford. You can just go take the course, buy it, download it yourself, watch the videos, do the playbook templates and all that, and go do it yourself. But at the same time, those other opportunities would also be available on the course website. So again, I've got kind of like two presents. I'm always going to do one-on-one coaching because I really enjoy it. It's the thing I've probably enjoy as much as anything I've ever done in my career. I just love that one-on-one, relationship, very intimate and all that. But like I said, I want the things that I've learned over 30 years of doing this. I want those extensible so that a much broader audience can find and take advantage of those things.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Any other advice you'd like to leave people with from knowing what you do now about the kind of people who are listening to this podcast?
So I'm going to give some very basic, entrepreneurial advice, particularly at the bootstrap level. It's super important, when you're just getting off the ground that you really are in that profit mindset. If you don't have the profit mindset, you're not going to have enough money to sustain yourself, and it's just going to be a frustrating, discouraging, unprofitable experience. So first and foremost, get in that profit mindset. You've got to grind, especially that first 6 to 12 months until you start generating some real revenue, a critical mass of revenue that starts sustaining itself or allows you to invest in the business. You really just need to grind and be in that profit mindset. So that's probably my first and foremost advice for this audience. But as I said, if you do that document, the vision document and the strategy document, I at least want you to have 2% of your brain thinking about, okay, what am I really trying to achieve down 12, 24, 36 months down the road? And then figuring out a plan to work backwards. But you got to get off the ground first. And like I said, once you kind of get that financial critical mass, then you start increasing the percentage of growth mindset. So that would be my basic advice.
Nice. Okay. So if people heard this and they want some more of your wisdom, maybe they're interested in getting your course when it launches, where should they go?
The first place they would go, just if they're interested in one-on-one coaching, would be to go to inclinecapital.net. That is my former investment site, but it's also about creating the intellectual capital to be a great and elite CEO. The second thing would be my course website. That's called the 30dayceo.com. And really what that is, it's the 30-day CEO playbook. It's about how you understand and master your business as a CEO in 30 days or less.
Beautiful. Okay, cool. So that was inclinecapital.net.
That's my one-on-one site. And then the coaching site is the 30-day CEO playbook.com.
The 30-day CEO playbook.com. Perfect. Amazing. Now, before we wrap it up, I want to remind you of how much your support means to us. We're here to make sure that your podcast experience gets even better, and you can help us with just a quick favor. If you just take a moment to rate and review the podcast, you're going to give us priceless feedback that will help shape future episodes. Has the show helped you make money? Has it helped you to grow your business or improve your courses? If it has, share it in the reviews. Go to ratethispodcast.com/online courses. Nothing would make me happier today than to hear how this show has helped you. We've done over 100 episodes of the show today. I'm dying to know which one was your favorite, which guest you enjoyed, who you want to get on as the next guest. Make my day and let me know in a review. Go to ratethispodcast.com/online courses. Thanks so much as always for listening. And RJ, thanks so much again for coming on and sharing your wisdom with everybody.
Pleasure. Good luck, everybody.